He added that the Global South is rising and progress cannot be achieved without giving voice to Global South. This comes after Prime Minister Modi arrived in Ghana on the first leg of a packed five-nation tour that includes his participation in the BRICS summit in Brazil. This is the first visit by an Indian Prime Minister to Ghana in nearly 3 decades, marking a renewed commitment by both nations to deepen cooperation in key areas such as trade and investment, agriculture, digital technology, infrastructure, defense, and capacity building as well. Joining us to talk more about this is Ambassador Prateep Kapoor, former diplomat. Mr. Arvind Singh Tejawat, foreign affairs expert, also joins us on the show. Major General Gigi Dwivedi, global strategic defense expert, with us on the broadcast as well. General Dwivedi, I'll begin with you. Well, let's talk defense. India, from being a net importer is a net exporter of defense equipment, and all of that has been put to test during Operation Sindoor as well. And with our born homie and our affinity towards the Global South and uplifting it, what do you make of this association and how can it benefit both the parties?
Well, Vineet, this visit should be seen in the larger context of how India gives immense importance to Global South and how India believes that it is a shared progress. And in fact, if we look at the 21st century, it has to be Asian African century. So therefore, without Africa, this century will not actually see the optimal dividends. Now, specifically coming to Ghana, Ghana is a very important West African nation. It has a very immense strategic importance, and we have very close ties, both historically, culturally, and even today. And therefore, Prime Minister Modi's visit comes at a very, very apt time. Now, you asked very specifically about the defense and security issue. Today, in today's world, you cannot have prosperity until you have secure nation both inside and on the borders. And to that extent, I think Ghana has and India have a lot to cooperate, and especially Ghana has a threat of terrorism from its northern borders. Now, India has emerged as a very important exporter of defense equipment. Only last year we achieved a target 2.5 billion, and we are looking at 5 billion target. And especially equipment has done very well. It has been proven equipment in Armenia and in other African nations, Nigeria. So therefore, I think what we are looking at in defense cooperation is multifold. First and foremost, the training of personnel, equipment, then also in the cyber domain, terrorism, all these are on the card. And I would say that with Ghana and also with other African nations, defense cooperation is one of the very important issue. And India is also contributing hugely to the UN peacekeeping forces, and to that extent Ghana also is equal contributor. So I can say in summation that defense cooperation is very important component of India Ghana overall bilateral relations, and this has great scope considering that India has a lot to offer in this field. Vineet.
Ambassador Kapoor, so your expertise, what does that tell you? That India is obviously not looking for just a relationship amongst equals. We are also looking at trade as well as growth with our African brothers and sisters. Ambassador Kapoor? Okay, perhaps there seems to be a problem with it. Arvind, same question for you. Arvind, if you can hear me. Arvind, are you there with us?
Hello. I will just take a minute to join.
Arvind, are you there with us? Ambassador Kapoor, we can't hear you, sir.
Yes, right. So you can take the opinion from my side. So here I would like to put the points, because recently I visited the African countries and I found that we people are sharing a common legacy of colonialism. But now the people who are working over there, especially the Indian diaspora, they are in a situation at a certain frustration. The frustration because of the bureaucracy. The frustration because of the bureaucracy, because most of the people, probably the associations built by the Indian diaspora, they have a complaint that the Indian representatives over there, the Indian diplomats, are not helpful enough over there. So if we compare with the Chinese diplomat, then the Chinese diplomat are more active, and it's because of the normally the people who are working over there, they feel that they have been punished to be appointed over there. So I suppose that if we are really looking a better future opportunity over there, now we are doing good in a particular sectors, like we are doing good in automobiles, we are doing good in medicine sectors, but we need to expand at a large scale. And since at a time of freedom struggle, even at a Nehruvian era, even the Prime Minister Nehru has helped a lot. If we speak about particularly the Zambia, then the Kenneth Konda has been given, the Nehru has extended his help to the Kenneth Konda and given him helicopters to escape from the British police. So the India is really sharing a good legacy, and Indian diaspora is having a good hold. But now the thing is, if the India is not availing this opportunity, and if it's not capable enough to competing with the China, then I suppose the situation is a bit frustrating. So the Indian needs to do research at a greater level, and that research is need to implement when they are dealing with the African countries. So that's the opinion, and that's my worry. If we work on that particular field, then I suppose we can really have a good future, and there is a better opportunity to go for the investment and to get a job and to get employment for the Indian skilled laborers and the technical and other people over there. That's my opinion.
General Dwivedi, absolutely. And General Dwivedi, how responsible will the political environment in some of these countries be when it comes to India doing seamless trade with them? As you know, and as we have also know, if you talk about Ghana, Uganda and Kenya as well, it's the political instability within the country that has stalled their growth. Do you think that there's any way that India can also perhaps, sort of venture into that domain?
Well, Vinit, firstly, I'd like to, I think, address Mr. Arvind's concern. I think they're well founded because I myself have experience as a diplomat. I think today Indian diplomacy needs to be very proactive. They need to be very nimble-footed, very agile. And he has given the example of China. China is in big way in Africa, and they have almost $300 billion investment, and they have a huge footprint. So therefore, I think this message should be well taken that our, diplomacy needs to be more proactive, more nimble-footed, and less of bureaucracy. I think that is one point. Secondly, you're very right that most of these countries have not been able to establish democratic credentials, and they have been dictatorial regimes off and on, and that has actually, I would say, impeded the progress of the nations here. A lot of conflict and a lot of, within the tribes and within the ethnics groups, there have been a lot of conflict. To that extent, I'm sure India can share our experience because we have now a very well established democratic credential over last 75 years. So therefore, like Prime Minister also mentioned that the parliamentarian can come and visit us, and we can gain from each other. But then India has a very, very clear-cut stated policy that we do not export democracy. Yes, we share our experiences, we encourage, and at the same time, we also lend our experiences. But the point is that it is the nation by themselves. They have to take the call, but India can definitely cooperate and also, I would say, bring in certain amount of ecosystem that can benefit the countries as a whole in Africa, because after all, when you have democratic system and Prime Minister repeatedly emphasize on this, then the progress of growth is greater because then everyone is a stakeholder, and that's what actually democratic system is all about, Vinith.
All right, those are live visuals coming in of the Prime Minister meeting with ministers and dignitaries and leaders from Ghana in the Parliament. There you have the Prime Minister waving at his fans and supporters, and the onlookers who were waiting to catch a glimpse of him. Ambassador Prateep Kapoor is also with us on the broadcast to talk about this. Ambassador Kapoor, are you there with us?
Yes, I'm very much here. I'm sorry.
Ambassador Kapoor, your thoughts on this outreach by the Prime Minister? Obviously, when it comes to being a catalyst and somebody who is, always passionate about starting a new relationship with different countries, Prime Minister Modi cannot be beaten.
Well, thank you. The basic point that we have to recognize and appreciate and understand is that the Prime Minister of India is, one of the best examples for global diplomacy. The way he has been able to reach out to countries across all the entire spectrum in terms of whether it is advanced countries or whether it is the global south or whether it is the middle income group of countries or whether it is Europe, and establish the importance of India in an indelible fashion. There is no comparison, there is no match. The respect that he has created globally for India, the brand of India being recognized all over the world. So for him to go to these, countries like the 5 countries he's visiting on this current tour is very essential, because Indian diplomacy is one of the smallest foreign services in the world, in the sense that we just have about 700 to 800 foreign service officers compared to very, very large numbers in other countries. Like the US has about 14,000 diplomats, 5,000 in the foreign missions, 9,000 at headquarters. Russia may have about 9,000 diplomats. China may have about 7,000 diplomats. Other countries may have 2,000 diplomats, 3,000 diplomats. Compared to that, to have a very small foreign service is not an easy task to maintain India's status in the global stage, to maintain India's interest, to promote India's interest, to project India's interest, and to have a Prime Minister like Prime Minister Modi definitely, works to the advantage of the country. I sometimes hear discussions about the Prime Minister of India traveling out to so many countries so frequently. I find that a very, very, infructuous argument. I don't think it is that sort of argument that can hold any water. What is required is for India's global presence and future, presence in the Committee of Nations as to what it is contributing and what it will have to contribute in the future. We require the Prime Minister, and not only the Prime Minister, but the other leaders of India, including the President, the Vice President, the Speaker, the Foreign Minister, the Home Minister, the Defense Minister, to be visiting a lot of countries to build up our relations. Because when these leaders, and particularly the Prime Minister of India, goes to any country, there is a very vast flow of relationships across the board. And it further intensifies and solidifies the relationship for the next so many years. So when I read, and even in this visit, that the last time a Prime Minister of India visited was 40 years back, or 50 years back, or 30 years back, or 20 years back, it just shows what a mass gap there is. Similarly, when we are working as ambassadors in different countries abroad, the demand from those countries to have Indian leaders visit their countries or to have their leaders visit India is very persistent. And we are not able to comply with sort of demand and requirement, because that helps a lot in intensifying the discussion. So I think the Prime Minister is doing a phenomenal job, and he does require many different clones like him to be able to sort of, create the global impact.
Fair enough, sir. We've run out of time, but appreciate you joining us. Thank you, gentlemen, for being a part of this conversation. We take a short break now. Be right back.